Good evening. Sorry. So before we get started, I just want to give a big thank you to Dr. Allison Slade. We couldn't have done this without her. She was a huge help in supervising this whole project. We did a meta-analysis research project on the psychological aspects behind injury rehabilitation. Started this project last December, and I've been working on it ever since. So why don't we get started with Kendall?
Hello. So we are all interested in the realm of sports psychology overall, and our project focuses on athletes as a population, more specifically how injury impacts their journey. And all of us have come to understand, and some of us firsthand, that injury can be an inevitable part of the athletic journey. So our research focuses on the idea that psychological factors like stress can increase the likelihood you might receive an injury or experience an injury, but also impact negatively how you are recovering from that injury, making mental intervention post-injury extremely important for successful return to sport. And our research shows us the deep connection between mental struggle and physical struggle, and shed light on the importance of pinpointing psychological disturbances that might arise, so that athletes can improve their well-being and then also improve their experience as they might experience injury going forward. So to begin, we wanted to highlight sports administration as well as professional athletes who further exemplify this connection. The director of athletic medicine and head team physician at Princeton University reiterates the commonality of injury, but adds on to that by saying that it may unmask or trigger serious mental health issues such as depression, anxiety, disordered eating, and substance use. So understanding how mental and physical struggle can interact is key for an athlete's support system as well as the athlete themselves. And a big part of understanding that is creating awareness through hearing the stories of professional athletes. So for example, Val Constein, who is an Olympic level steeplechase athlete, describes her struggle with body image and seasonal depression, which led to behavioral changes like malnutrition, which further led to various injuries like a metatarsal tear and then also a stress reaction in her patella. It wasn't until she got connected with a mental health professional and found mental healing to where she was able to find a healthy body and then pursue long-term goals like winning a gold medal. So these really show how these have the mental and physical component of injury rehabilitation have a profound impact on successful return.
As Kendall mentioned, emotional support can go a long way in regards to the psychological effects post-injury. But emotional support can actually improve the physical recovery, not just the mental side. Some common psychological effects that the athlete may face is identity loss, self-blame, and even change within their personal relationships. And having a good sense of emotional support around you can help lead to less psychosocial reactions, more sport injury-related growth, and they're actually more likely to report future injuries, which I will discuss in a moment. Roughly 46% of all sports injuries are overuse injuries, meaning the athlete's not allowing themselves proper time to heal from just overusing certain body parts that are required within their sport. And emotional support can actually lead them to report these injuries. So not only does having a good sense of emotional well-being around you help on the mental side of rehabilitation, they're more likely to report these injuries and not get injured in the first place, as they're allowing their body to heal before these overuse injuries can even occur.
So to touch on the research more specifically, there was a couple points that really portrayed the profound impact of injury and what the mental side has to do with proper recovery. So for example, The American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons found that psychological stress can extend the healing time of wounds up to 25% or more. And this same psychological stress can increase perceptions of pain, as well as increase physiological tension, and lead to even chronic pain. Additionally, half of those with serious injuries would be diagnosed with PTSD, given the commonality and also severity of chronic stress post-injury. And for athletes, if these are gone unnoticed, they can get worse over time. So they're experiencing injuries more frequently. And for the athlete population, given their reliance on their body to perform their sports and find success, any factors such as these that might increase the time of healing are extremely important to understand and to note, because them returning to their sport as quickly and effectively as possible is very important to them, as these are often associated with their livelihood or career in general. So 2 psychological disruptions that stood out to us as most common post-injury for athletes are fear of re-injury and pain catastrophizing. So fear of re-injury has to do with a discomfort or fear with the movement given a history of injuries. And this fear can lead to physical impairment or altered muscle recruitment, lack of muscle endurance, and decreased stability. Pain catastrophizing has to do with a discomfort or loss of control of worry about pain itself. And these can lead to feelings of helplessness and magnify the pain itself. And the people with tendencies to catastrophize pain were found to have more likely to have felt the pain post-exercise up to like 96 hours versus having that pain subside around 48 hours for those who did not catastrophize the pain. And unresolved mental trauma, such as these 2 factors, can prevent effective recovery from strenuous tasks that are often required with rehab. So these 2 are key in being able to pinpoint when effectively recovering.
All right. So now we kind of want to think of some intervention strategies of, how we're actually going to address rehabilitation and recovery. And apart from positive self-talk, imagery, preventing isolation, and goal setting, something I'm going to talk about to introduce everything is called the mind-muscle connection. And it's kind of important because it helps us think why it's important to be connected with your body and your muscles, through your mind, and to see how that affects muscle gain and muscle activity through sports, because that's, directly related to stuff like rehabilitation and how people are going to overcome injuries. So now to define mind-muscle connection, mind-muscle connection is pretty much our ability to just mentally connect with our muscles or a muscle group during exercise. And we want to do that in order to see, how effective we can be and how we can increase the quality of, rehabilitation and recovery, because those things are directly related. And I'm going to show some research that directly shows how those things are related. And the best part about mind-muscle connection is that it can be applied to any sport, any weightlifting kind of thing, and it can be done by anyone. All right, so one research study done by Schoenfeld kind of gets into the idea of how mind-muscle connection can be done just through thinking. And he pretty much took his participants and he split them up into 2 different groups. And their task was to do different exercises such as barbell curls and leg press. And the 2 groups were separated by an internal focus group and an external focus group. And the entire point of the internal focus group was for them to have instructions to, squeeze the muscles that you're actually working on, whereas the external focus group was just told to go through the motions of the exercise. And they wanted to see, okay, how is that going to affect, how their muscles are performing, if they have more strength or muscle size in the end. And it turned out that the internal focus group had a lot more muscle size and muscle strength at the end of the study. And that kind of demonstrates why mind-muscle connection is important. And on top of that, the whole saying of mind-muscle connection is a very common saying in the bodybuilding and weightlifting community. And a lot of people think that, oh, it's just a myth, mind-muscle connection. But, research kind of shows that mind-muscle connection is important. And it's not just for weightlifters or bodybuilders. It's for anyone who, is going through a muscle-related injury. And so for mind-muscle connection, the internal and external thoughts were the main thing. But in addition to the internal and external locus is that pretty much researchers were able to show that when athletes were given instructions to have some sort of physical touch with the muscle, for example, touch the specific muscle group that you're targeting while the weightlifting exercise is occurring, they had a lot more, neuron activity, and that demonstrated more muscle activity. And that's pretty much the goal of rehabilitation: more muscle activity, more muscle growth. And to add on to that, the internal and external focus cues can also be used in sports, not just weightlifting. For example, for the external cues, research has showed that when an athlete is told to focus on an object, such as a baseball or a basketball, when compared to, just catch the ball, the group with cues, the group that was told to, focus on the cue, had more of a mind-muscle connection because they were told what to do and what to imagine. So that's also why external visual cues are very important.
And so now that we have an established understanding of how important it is for the mental part of rehabilitation to be connected to the physical part, we want to get into some different strategies that stood out to us in the research. Firstly, positive self-talk, and this is key because injury for athletes can feel like a failure at times, and really, it gets tough for an athlete to get out of the mindset of negative self-talk and feeling like that injury is something that was their fault. So shifting the mindset to more positive thinking can increase feelings of capability and then also general performance. 2 studies that showed the positive effects on learning, performance, and skill attainment within sport are listed right here, and one of them defines 2 separate types of self-talk. Instructional self-talk is been shown to improve precision by using specific mantras, and then motivational self-talk, which is more geared to increasing confidence, improved strength, and endurance. 2 researchers were able to, in real time, study 2 groups who utilized positive phrases and negative phrases while recovering from an injury, and saw that those who utilized positive phrasing had much faster healing than those who had negative phrasing. And they were telling themselves things like, in the positive frame, I can do anything, or in the negative frame, I'll never be as strong again, while they were doing their rehab.
Mental imagery. It's one of the most important parts of the mind-body connection. It's super important to be able to visualize what you need and to avoid negative self-talk or negative images in your mind. For athletes recovering from injury, it's super important for the physical rehabilitation and promoting psychological well-being. Mental imagery is beneficial with helping for motor skills, reducing anxiety, building confidence, and can speed up recovery. It's often overlooked, but it ties into the mind-body connection because without that mental imagery, it's really hard to focus on certain parts of your body that you're trying to either rehabilitate or just work on. Another intervention strategy is preventing isolation. A lot of injured athletes feel alone. A lot of the support that athletes get is from their coaches and from their teammates. It's a big community, and as all of us pretty much athletes, we all know that one of our best friends are made through sports. But it's hard when athletes are injured because without that support, it's very lonely. And so preventing isolation by opportunities for social support, involvement in team activities, and maintaining a positive mindset can really be beneficial in rehabilitation. Goal setting. So there's short-term and long-term goals. This can be achieved at each phase of the recovery process. The short-term goals are important for keeping the athlete motivated during the process, and then the long-term goals are a good target to look forward to. A good basis for goal setting is the SMART framework. Its goals should be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. These qualifications for goals make it a lot easier for athletes to stick to that and really guides the rehabilitation process. Injured athletes are more actively involved in setting their goals. The ones that are more actively involved, they have better results than goal setting that's kind of not geared directly for them. Tracking progress and adjusting goals as needed is super important because not everybody's recovery time is the same, and everyone kind of has a different process, so it's important to have it specified to each athlete. And then it's super important to celebrate all the accomplishments along the way. I think a lot of athletes kind of get down when they're just always focusing on, the bad parts about being injured, but there are a lot of other good things that can come out of, working on bettering yourself, and so that's really important as well.
As previously discussed, the mind and body go hand in hand with one another, and research has shown that the physical body cannot heal properly if the mental side is not there as well. Morgan spoke on this, but athletes are provided a ton of physical resources, trainers, coaches, but when they're injured, the mental side kind of gets pushed to the side and they're left to handle the situation alone. This project, we want to build awareness and teach people about the resources that can guide you through the psychological methods during this rehabilitation period that can lead to the success and impact of the physical therapy as a whole. This project has practical application for both coaches and athletes, and the best part is there's no barrier of resources, socioeconomic income, especially with mind-muscle connection. It's all mental. If you want to use any of these interventions, you can, and you should, but there's nothing holding you back. These methods can and should be used by individuals or athletes from any background to help them through an already difficult process post-injury. If there's any questions, feel free to come up to any of the four of us. We'd love to discuss this topic further. Thank you so much.